All right, YouTube. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast Talking Auburn Football. Go ahead and like this video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. All right, so want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. This is officially game week. In about a week from now, Auburn will take on the Minnesota Gophers. But the question has been asked, was this season a success for Auburn? 9-3. Going to the Outback Bowl, which is not necessarily the most terrible bowl that you can go to, because there's always the Birmingham Bowl, right? For some of us from back in 2015. So if you really look at anything from a success-failure standpoint, you got to look at the expectations and you have to look at the goals. Now, obviously, if you're an Auburn fan in the SEC, especially having to rub shoulders with LSU, Alabama, Georgia, and every now and then Florida, every year, you want to be among the conversation of the elite. Unfortunately, Auburn just really has not competed, well, not necessarily competed, but have not recruited and really have not had the coaching staff, have not necessarily had the personnel to really be a contender year in and year out. Even if you look at the 2010 seasons, even with Cam Newton, a lot of non-sustainable activity had to happen in order for Auburn to win the national championship that particular year. Okay. Also, you look at 2013, Prayer and Jordan Hare, the kick six. Although those are memorable moments for Auburn, those things are not sustainable. So when you look at, that's like a percent error. If you think about statistics for human behavior, that's like a percent error there, away from being actually 8-5. Those should have been 8-5 seasons too. Could have been. But the ball bounced the right way. And so you don't want to build your success based on the ball bouncing the right way. When I look at this team for Auburn in 2019, one of the reasons why I think this was a relatively successful season is because outside of the lack of execution at times from the offense, this looks like a team that can build upon what the accomplishments were in 2019 and build into something that could potentially be sustainable. For one, I think Bo Nix is a really good quarterback and really continued to stay plugged in despite all of the distractions. He turned out to be a pretty good quarterback. Freshman of the year. Now, I'm really interested to see his gameplay in the Minnesota game because I want to see what kind of improvements have even been made since the Alabama game, because we got to get a little bit more consistency out of Bo Nix. I want him to get away from that early 60% completion percentage to where he's really firing on all cylinders. Because with the experience that Bo Nix has garnished throughout this year, he's just not a true freshman anymore. Like, to say that he's a true freshman after all the experiences going into this Minnesota game, I think that's laughable, to say the least. Now, Auburn really put a nice decent brand of football on the field, especially from a defensive standpoint. The defense set some goals early this year, especially with how they were going to defend the run. They wanted to only give up about 3.3 yards per carry. They only gave up about 3.4. They really crunched the numbers big time against LSU when they were able to hold Joe Burrow to 7.6. Now, when I did my video, I thought they needed to hold him to 10 instead of 12, but 7.6 is a great number to hold a great quarterback like Joe Burrow down to. So what does that mean? What did those numbers mean for Auburn? The difference is Auburn wins 2 more games in 2019 versus 2018 regular season with a freshman quarterback, with brand new linebackers. So I think that is a check mark to some degree of success. Where do the failures lie? Now, some of the failures for Auburn, in my opinion, were by default. This is still debatable as to whether Joey Gatewood should have been given a shot. We don't know. We don't know how good. We'll find out how good Joey Gatewood is in a couple of years. But I think there were moments where Gus Malzahn could have either called timeout or really get Bo Nix grounded, especially in the Florida game, because that was a complete debacle. I think when you miss opportunities, those are coaching and developmental opportunities, I think, that Gus Malzahn should have been a navigator enough to see that this quarterback was clearly flustered by the crowd noise, by the moment. Come on, you got to get the guy out of there. He's really, really struggling. He's really, really in the middle of a mental debacle. So you got to get him out of there. Gus Malzahn didn't make the decision. Okay, here we are. I think Florida was one of those losses that were disappointing. Could have made a difference in the trajectory of the season. Okay, so when we look at a 9-3 season, we look at all things involved. A lot of true freshmen got a chance to play. A lot of reserve players got a chance to play. You talk about awards galore, especially on defense with KJ Britt, Marlon Davidson, and Derek Brown. I think overall you got to give this a rate of success. I think this was a successful season for Auburn, and I think from a perceptual standpoint, the signing class showed that this was a pretty good season for Auburn. It was a little inconsistent at times, but overall, pretty good season for Auburn. All right, once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast Talking Auburn Football. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.